Hello everybody! Welcome to our weekly live Q&A. My name is Amanda Faye and I am a Fit for Birth head coach. And I am going to try, am I on Facebook? Yep, I'm on Facebook too. So I'm going to be doing a live Q&A and we got some amazing questions already sent in, but feel free to definitely send in your own questions as well. Right at the bottom, you can just type in your question in the comment section, send it through, and I will be sure to answer them. So a little bit about me, as I work for Fit for Birth, I am one of their head coaches, so you might have had your final video call with me to leave Fit for Birth and go on to your own into the world. So that means that I also have my Fit for Birth pre- and postnatal corrective exercise cert, my pre- and postnatal diastasis and core consultant certification. I'm a certified personal trainer. I am a holistic health coach, and I also work part-time owning my own business where I do group pre- and postnatal classes, and I also work part-time as an Orange Theory coach. So I am just coaching all over the place. So again, ask your questions below if you have any, and I would be glad to answer them, but I'm going to go ahead and get started with some of the ones that were sent in. So Alpha State Holistics wrote, how do you become a Fit for Birth coach? So I'm assuming she's meaning a head coach like what me and Krista do. And so basically, I don't have the definite answer for you because there's no like apply here button on the web. However, I personally went through the pre- and postnatal CES, so you'd have to go through the courses first, at least the PPCES, and then I was actually in Miami for a health coaching conference, and I was like, hey James, I'm going to be in Miami in a couple of weeks, do you want to meet up when I'm there? And he came over to the dinner that I was having with all of my IIN friends, and we met in person, and he could just sense my passion for and my understanding of the course. And so he asked me, would you want to be one of our head coaches? And I said, absolutely. So I went through all of the training. And so I would say my biggest suggestion if you are interested in becoming a head coach and working for Fit for Birth is first go through the courses, and then I would suggest having a conversation with James somehow, just maybe sending him an email saying that you would love to chat or that you're interested, saying what you're interested in, and seeing if he has time to write back or have that chat with you. So Shawnee wrote, hey, a client of mine asked me if the inner core is strong, would it help to prevent stretch marks? So stretch marks are definitely one of those topics out there that people feel strongly about, where a lot of times there's nothing that women can really do about it. A lot of times too, it's genetics. There's women out there who have very strong cores and they work out throughout their whole pregnancy and they still get stretch marks. And so I don't know exactly what goes into it, but I would say it does not hurt to have a strong inner core. And in my thoughts, I think that if you're able to use your core functionally, meaning that you can breathe through your diaphragm and you can have that rhythmic flow of the inhale and exhales, that you're going to be moving your belly constantly. And so the skin isn't going to be just sort of out and stretched for such a long period of time, like that last trimester. And so we even learned about this in the PPCES, where some moms, they don't use that core breathing belly pump, that rhythmical breath, and the belly just kind of hangs out there towards the end, when it gets a lot bigger. And then that I think maybe can contribute to stretch marks. So maybe we see less stretch marks when there is that rhythmical flow. But great question, Shawnee. I got another question from Omi Milk on Instagram. Wrote, which course suits me if I work as a childbirth educator and doula? And this is a great question. I believe the best course would be our flagship pre- and postnatal corrective exercise course. If you did the bundle and did also the diastasis and core consulting course, you would also get all that info on diastasis and the pelvic floor. So just be able one step further to really be able to help your clients with the diastasis and be able to refer out to different programs that are already created online for that. I think it's great that you asked this question because my business partner in my other business, the pre and postnatal business, Funky Bump, she's actually also a doula. And so she went out and she got her pre and postnatal corrective exercise cert, and she started teaching group classes too. So she's a doula. So on Tuesday nights, she does her doula group sessions. And then on Thursday nights, she teaches Funky Bump classes, and it just works really well all together. Okay, Ashley, you wrote, what are your favorite cues to help clients activate their pelvic floor? Another great question. And so I like to say close and lift, or think about, you're doing a Kegel. If you don't know what a Kegel is, imagine you're urinating and you try to stop it midstream, and that kind of allows moms to at least know how to activate their pelvic floor, but then bringing it deeper. And first, visualizing, I like to say, think your pelvic floor like the bottom of a soccer ball, and how the fibers will run forward and backwards, but the fibers also run from side to side. And then we have our 3 sphincters. Think about closing those and then lifting upward. Also talking about how we have 3 different layers. So there's not just one layer of skin and then that's it. There's really like the superficial, the mid, and then the deep layer of the pelvic floor. So we can have a really strong contraction and a really low contraction. And so favorite cues, again, after I say inhale, fill belly and ribs, I really just say exhale, close and lift pelvic floor, wrap TVA. Think about if you had a pair of jeans on, or if you were wearing a jacket like this one, you're zippering up the bottom of the jacket. So in that type of direction, you're zippering your jeans up. Lower abdominal muscles are coming in and being engaged with that pelvic floor cue. And then if they have a hard time activating pelvic floor, sometimes I have them do flutters. So just like pulsing the area to get some blood flow there, thinking about holding on, going off, holding on, going off. Those are some good ways that moms can help to activate their pelvic floor. You guys are sending in great questions. I did get another one that I have 2 more that I have to answer because they wrote them in, and I was like, I'm going to answer these today on the live, so make sure you check it out. So Amy wrote, I'm looking to do small group training for pregnant and postpartum moms where I likely won't have the opportunity to have a one-on-one assessment. Would you recommend, or how would you go about more of a group assessment in the first session? And would you plan to spend the entire first session, 1 hour, on the assessment? Understanding each woman is going to feel something different, I won't be able to complete one-on-one attention, so I'm thinking I would have them write answers down to all the questions instead of saying them out loud, as to not coach the others with their answers. At least then I would have their personal answers to study and prep for the following sessions. Am I crazy? Amy, you are not crazy, and I would say that this is an amazing idea. So say you have a group training session and you have moms pre-register for like 4 weeks or whatever. That first class, I would definitely do an assessment and do a group assessment, and I feel like it wouldn't even have to be super slow. So what you could do is you could use the same assessment that we use during the VC call, so the final video call, the same thing we went through with the clients, and instead break it down. What I would do is have the moms go around the room and introduce themselves and say what stage they are in their pregnancy, if they're comfortable with that, like how far along they are in their pregnancy, or maybe how far postpartum, and if they wanted to say anything further about maybe something that they're dealing with, like if they have any severe low back pain or sciatic pain. And you kind of jot that down as you're going around the room. This is fast, right? And then you say, all right, we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to have everyone stand up and we're going to take some really big deep breaths, and then have everyone take really big deep breaths and just say, I want you to write down where you feel your body is moving when you take this big deep breath. And from a scale from 1 to 10, how does that feel? And how hard is it, right? And then have them lie on their backs. And again, maybe when they're lying on their backs, you can show them how to safely lie onto their backs without creating that spinal flexion. So there's a teaching moment there. And you have them take a big inhales on their backs. And you have them do that, the same thing where you're writing that down. And then maybe here's another teaching. You can also teach them how to check for diastasis. So everyone in the room just learned how to check for diastasis. And you're having them do this on themselves and writing it down. And then you go through the rest of the assessment, squats, lunges, deadlifts, and they're writing this down, right? Then I would bring them all back and teach them how to, well, I'd say first the benefits of diaphragmatic breathing and why and what the deep core is, and kind of have an educational moment. Then go into diaphragmatic breathing. So having everyone lay back on their backs and really teaching them how to bring that breath more into their core. And I would really just go through everything we did in the VC call, where we taught them how to go from a supine to a standing position, because standing is the hardest to activate that diaphragm slowly. And so moms will start on their backs, and then when they got that down, maybe some foot marches, and then when they got that down, side planking on the knees, and then a quadruped position, the diagonal, the upright, and then the completely standing. And then have them take those big inhales, try to see if they can do it, where they're having their belly rise instead of all this moving, which is probably what happened when they all inhaled for that first time, unless they were previously working with you. And then quickly go through all those movements again. So then go through again the squat, the lunge, the hinge, the bent row, and have them again with the diaphragmatic breathing, so the rhythmic flow of their breath with those movements. Have them write down a new answer. Say, did anything change? Does anything else feel different right now? And I would then coach after it. So say you do the squat and you say, how does this feel now? And a lot of people who said their quad says, actually, I feel in my glutes now. And say, that's amazing. For those of you who can't feel in their glutes, let's all try it together. And so you really break it down. And then this is where you can coach, like feet shoulder width apart, sink your hips back like you're sitting in a chair, activate the glutes, come on up out of that squat, drive through the heels. Not sure if that would be an hour. I feel like you might have to speak a little bit fast, and maybe it would work better with a small group. She does say small group training, so this would be perfect with like 3 to 4 moms, but I do think you could do it, and I think that everyone would leave that room with their minds blown for that first assessment. And how amazing would that be to set them up for the rest of their trainings with you? All right. Shani wrote, is it normal that when they release the pelvic floor, it feels like they need to pee? I'm not positive. I would have them for sure go see a pelvic floor physical therapist. I think this is super important for anyone who is pregnant or postpartum, any of your clients who are pregnant or postpartum, to see a pelvic floor physical therapist, even if they're not having any issues whatsoever. But yeah, I feel like it's not a normal reaction to feel like they need to pee when they release. It should just feel more like they relaxed, right? They went back to a 0. If when they contract, that's a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And when they relax, this is a 0 baseline. That's probably what it should feel like. So I would suggest referring them out to a pelvic floor specialist. And I know Shani wrote, it's so hard not to coach during assessment. I'm really good at it because I do all of the VC calls, and so I'm constantly having to say, that's coaching, that's coaching. So I totally get it. That is hard to be like, no, sink your hips back, or like you're sitting in a chair, all those different cues. But that's why it will be fast, because you're not coaching. So that part will be super fast. Work It Robin said, I have a client who entered into pregnancy with lower back pain and hip pain, any sort of turnout. We have been avoiding supine position and any sort of turnouts. Do you have any extra tips or suggestions? Thanks in advance. With low back pain and hip pain. So if you were to go through the pre and postnatal corrective exercise course, we do have a lot of awesome corrective exercise tips for how to help with low back pain and hip pain. And a lot of the things too is things to avoid. So for example, what type of hip pain is this? Is it more going to be like symphysis pubis stuff, pelvic girdle pain? Is it more sciatic? And so with a lot of those things, we want to avoid single-legged things. So avoid balancing on one leg or even lunging and things like that. Sometimes even rotational twisting movements can be a stressor for the hips. For the low back pain, having her stretch that out low with like a child's pose. And I don't think you necessarily have to avoid the supine position unless that is giving that person discomfort. And so if that's giving that person discomfort, of taking that out. But if you could have that client lay on her back and do some really nice big diaphragmatic breaths to decompress the spine. and some belly pumps in that position. That would be amazing. If you could have her flip over into a child's pose and really utilize the whole lower body here. So expanding ribs, diaphragm, even the low back with that inhale, and then exhale falls back down. That would be amazing for decompressing the spine. And then Work It Robin said, I believe proper pumping would help alleviate her back pain, but she can't focus on anything else when she's on her back, so we just don't bother anymore. Yeah, so that makes sense if that's bothering her, even with, you've tried probably even having feet on the floor versus feet flat out, or like bringing one foot up, so it takes just a little bit of the pressure off. But yeah, I would then have her in a child's pose, belly pumping, even kneeling with her hands on the floor, quadruped. And definitely if the low back pain is because of pregnancy and the belly coming out and the lordosis happening, focusing on that forward pelvic tilting more as well, and avoiding kind of the arch back and the tail up, and just focusing on tail down and neutral, that would be great too. All right, I have one more question here on my screen, but again, if you have another one, you send them on through. We have from Morgan, I'm working with a new client who is having a hard time belly breathing. Chest breathing is her norm. What are the best cues to help make it click? And so I love to have my clients put their hands on their belly to help them breathe into their belly, and and just letting them know that it doesn't have to be fully all from here. If this is moving a little bit, that's okay. If anything, maybe that last 2/3 is going to have the chest rise. And so having her physically put her hands here and starting on her back, because we know that breathing diaphragmatically on your back is going to be the easiest. So start in that easiest position for her and take it as slow as you need to. So inhaling and saying cues like inhale, belly rises, or inhale, fill belly and ribs, or inhale, belly expands, rib expands, inhale, blossom or bloom outward, and then exhale comes back in. And then once she's mastered that on her back, then having her move into those different positions like a side plank, quadruped, eventually standing. And then my other suggestion is to have her practice. So I like to tell my new clients to set some type of reminder, whether that's a text message, every time they get a text message they remember, or literally setting an alarm on their phone that every time it goes off, they can go and remember to practice their diaphragmatic breathing. Because sometimes, a lot of times people are chronic chest breathers, and so they have to remember to put that breath back into the core by setting reminders. And I think that saying is it takes 21 days to make a habit, right? And so hopefully eventually this client can make the belly breathing a habit. All right. So Work It Robin said, I did the course. Sounds like we're on the right track. Thanks. You're welcome. So glad you took the course. And then Shani wrote, I'm going to Joni's class tonight. So excited. I am so excited for you. And I'm jealous because if I was in New York City, I would also be going to that class too, because I'm so excited for her. I hope you have so much fun. You should take some photos and post it in your stories and tag her and tag us, and we would love to see that. So thank you everyone so much for joining us. That's going to be it. Remember that you still have plenty of time to buy your plane tickets to go to Miami with me, myself. James is going to be running it. Krista, the other head coach, will be there. Joni will be there. Maggie's going to be there. So you are going to be surrounded by some of the, obviously, most amazing people in the pre- and postnatal community. But we have a lot of strong backgrounds that are all coming together. And we have a really amazing group of students who are joining us as well. So it's going to be a full house. It's in beautiful sunny Miami. You get your pre and postnatal certificate in 3 days, and then you can fly home and tell everyone about your amazing experience and start practicing right away. So link is in our bio for that. Also, don't forget that James is being interviewed with Joni on a summit, a Mastering New Motherhood Summit, and that also link is in our bio if you wanted to share that link with your pre and postnatal clients, or if you yourself are pregnant or postpartum. This is going to be a free summit starting February 11th. So we are so excited for all the future things that are happening in Fit for Birth this year. Thank you so much for joining us today, and you can join us next week. I'm pretty sure next week we're going to be interviewing either Joni or James. So join us next week, and again, thank you everyone so much.